Hello and welcome to another reading vlog. So this is the start of another reading vlog. Basically, I spend my weekends reading because I'm so rock and roll. Also, watching Beetlejuice tonight. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. I was like, Friday the 13th, I'm watching Beetlejuice. It's perfect. So I've got my ticket, I've got my t-shirt, I've got my kind of green makeup on. I am so ready. I love Beetlejuice. You might notice over there I've got my Beetlejuice poster up on the wall. I love the original film, so I'm super excited about this. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about reading. So I am gonna attempt another sort of crazy 48-hour weekend reading of new fantasy and or probably both a bit of thriller. So I'm very much a mood reader. So I'm just going to preface this. I'm not going to read all of these books this weekend because I would just die and not sleep at all. But I have these kind of books to choose from. And because I'm very much a mood reader, I will pick up next whatever I sort of feel like. But I really want to get to all of these. So if I don't get to all of them this weekend, they're going to kind of bleed into the week and then also be doing them next week. So the first one, I think I showed you this one on my last video. This is Lucy Undying by Kirsten White. I'm so excited about this. This is a Dracula retelling. So it's Dracula changed her level transformer. And it centers on Lucy Westenra. And it's told in 3 different styles. And it's also told in like 2024. So current time. And then the past. And it's told through the news story, through just normal narrative. Then you've got like diary entries, but you've also got like therapist session notes. And you're basically following Lucy Westenra through her life after she was made a vampire. Well, some of the diary entries are before she was made a vampire, and then kind of her. This is also Sapphic. So Sapphic both in the current timeline and in the Lucy timeline. So Lucy's very much in love with Mina Harkner. And I'm so excited about this. Super excited. The last Kirsten White book did not go too well for me, but I'm really hoping that, particularly with the subject matter and some of the blurbs on here, Chloe Gong, Ava Reed, Katie Roberts, Rincha Pecco, Hayley Pipe, some of my favorite authors on there, so I'm really hoping. So this one I'm definitely going to get to, and I'll probably sneak some of this in this afternoon before my next call. Then the next one I have is, this is fairly new. The second book is coming out. So this is Crimson Moth by Kirsten Cicerelli. And this, I believe, is about a witch and a witch hunter. And again, that cover, this is the UK cover, isn't that beautiful? And it is also a book 1 in a duology, because what I need to do is start another series. And yeah, you've got Rune, who is your witch, and then she's kind of the sweet socialite, and everybody thinks she's really vapid and sweet, but she's actually, I think, a bit of a witch rebel at night. And then you've got the witch Gideon, who's kind of hunting the Crimson Moth, this kind of rebel witch, and I'm assuming love and madness ensues. So that sounds really beautiful, and I see the second book's coming out soon-ish, so I would really like to read that, and I'm very much in my witch vampire era. Then the next one is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. This just is super anticipated by me as a release this year. And this one is, so you've got your main character Lorelei, who's a folklorist with a quick temper and an even quicker wit. Oh, and she's going on an exhibition, isn't she, in search of a mythical spring. And then this one, I believe, is also a sapphic romance where she falls in love, and it's an enemies to lovers kind of thing. But I love the idea of the main character being a folklorist and going kind of on this adventure, because I like anything that's kind of got sort of adventure in it and with the side helping of apparently a really nice sapphic romance and some folklore in it. And again, this cover is just gorgeous. Then the next one, I think I also mentioned this one in the video, but that is This Ravenous Fate by Hayley Dennings. I have seen a few people who I really love, Carrie, she was talking about this and really, really love this, and a few other people. And it's basically vampires and it's 1920s Harlem, and that is all I need to know. It sounds incredible. The cover's incredible. And again, this is one I probably definitely will get to this weekend because I am really excited about reading that, and it's just so beautiful. And then the last fantasy one I have is this one. This is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and I came across this one because it basically said if it's a mixture between Caraval and Serpent in the Wings of Night, I think someone's all Caraval and Akatar, something like that. But it, first of all, skull cover is very me, and it says, "Welcome to Phantasma. There are only 2 rules to the game: stay alive and don't fall in love." And apparently this is like this kind of fantastical game in this haunted mansion, and the main character Ophelia, her sister, disappears, and she has to kind of enter this game in this haunted mansion to find her sister. And I'm assuming there's also a bit of dark romance going on here. And it just sounds amazing because, side note, I'm currently reading Wicked Kingdom. Oh my goodness. I've literally just bought the second book because there is no way I can finish that first book and not go on to the second book. I am loving that series. And I feel like this is kind of giving me vibes, but also the tournament in the haunted house. I mean, that's just me. So I don't know if I'll get to this weekend, but that's on my list. And then if I'm in a thriller mood, I've got these. So that's my bookmark. You don't need that. So I have got, this is the first one, Where He Can't Find You. This is the new Darcy Coates. So this is about a serial killer called the Stitcher. And apparently he's been taking people in this town for ages. And this group of friends is trying to figure out who the Stitcher is. And I think the main character, her sister, gets taken. And it's basically a chase for this serial killer called the Stitcher. And I don't know if there's kind of supernatural elements to this as well. But it just sounds really good. And Darcy Coates' writing, I've been told, is amazing. So this will be my first Darcy Coates. I'm really, really wanting to get to this. Then the other ones I have. So this is... I'm kind of cheating with the new here. So this is new on paperback. Or certainly new to me on paperback. So this is Listen to the Lie by Amy Tintera. And it is about, so I love crime novels that have kind of podcast elements. I know it's been done, but I still like it, okay? So this is Am I a Murderer? You Tell Me, Listen for the Lie. And apparently there's like a podcast being made. It's a true crime podcast called Listen for the Lie. And you have this kind of woman telling her story. So it's giving me a shades of the Lisa Jewell book, and None of This Is True, which I freaking love. 5-star thriller. It's incredible. And this is kind of giving me that vibe. So I really want to read that. Plus, it was half price at WH Smith's this week. So if anybody in the UK wants to get it. And then I have these two. And again, these are new. So this is The House of Last Resort. And I mean, how cool is Mr. Ratty on that cover? That is by Christopher Golden. And this is a horror novel. And I love a good haunted house. And apparently this is set in Italy. And a couple buy one of these houses of last resort. So in Europe, particularly in Italy, you get a lot of these houses, these little villages that are very run down. No one like lives there. And you can actually buy houses for like €1 in these villages. And so this couple buys this house, but something creepy is going on, and apparently there's something with the church as well, so sounds good. And then the other one is the new Delilah S. Dawson Guillotine, and this is kind of a take on, I think, like almost the French Revolution, but in the modern day. And I believe it has to do with this girl who's dating a guy because his mother is a fashion influencer, and she wants to kind of get in with the mother, and they go off to this retreat at their like fancy house. And essentially the peasants revolt. So the staff revolt because they can't take being treated so badly by this family anymore, and kind of murder and mayhem ensues. So anyway, so those are my choices. Wish me luck. My eyes are going to go crazy from all the reading, but I will update you throughout the weekend and let you know what my thoughts are on the books. So I'll speak to you all later. Bye. Just got back from Beetlejuice, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's such a great way. I think like that's how you do a second film is you actually do a sequel. You get Tim Burton, you get Winona Ryder, you get Jenna Ortega, and you just make the most fun kind of second movie that really pays homage to like the original and hits all the beats. So I loved it. I recommend it. Also, I got some happy mail. So, Slewfoot! So I have been dying to read Slewfoot for ages and ages and ages. And I finally have a copy, so I will be reading that pretty soon. That's going on my autumn TBR, as well as everything else that's on my autumn TBR. So anyway, so I am going to take my makeup off, shower, and then read some more. And I think I'm going to read Lucy Undead because, you know, I'm in the mood for some horror. And I will update you all tomorrow on how it's going. Night. Hello. So, a quick update on my reading. I think last night you probably caught glimpses of me after being to go see Beetlejuice and having a couple of D&Ds, but yeah, I'm still kind of on a high from last night. Beetlejuice was so much fun, but I have been reading Lucy Undying. So sorry, get my anybody shout out Wolfox Cafe. They do the best coffee. I also have a baklava cheesecake back there that is just unreal. So yeah, cheers. So Lucy Undying. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So, like I said, this kind of gets told in 3 different timelines, essentially, and in 3 different ways. So you have a modern story that's set in 2024 in London with a character called Iris, who you find out her mother has died, and she's kind of inheriting this. Her family's very rich, and she's kind of inheriting, but she doesn't want this inheritance. So she's come to London because there's this kind of crumbling old mansion house that she's inherited in London, and then also a cottage in Whitby. So again, throwback to Dracula. So Whitby is where Dracula kind of landed, where the boat landed when he came to England in the original Dracula story. So I love all those kind of throwbacks. I'm loving the kind of connection with Dracula, but then also this being its own story. And I went to the back and I read the author's note, so Kirsten White's author's note, and it was really, really good. So she kind of acknowledges what I loved about her particular author's note was she sort of said, Lucy, because Lucy gets sort of tormented in the original Dracula. She basically just gets bitten and then she's tormented and then she basically dies. But in this one, obviously, Lucy Undying does not die. So she gets bitten by Dracula, but she lives to be a vampire. And we're following, so like the diary entries and the therapist sessions that we're having is with Lucy. And she's kind of talking us through her life and kind of what happened after she became undead and all the sort of, I guess, adventures she's had in her life, which I really, really love. And it's kind of, it goes from, you know, the First World War to the Second World War. You're in Paris, you're in Istanbul, you're in China, you're all over the place, which is really, really fun. But on the, in these notes, it says, Lucy deserved a girlfriend. That's it. Really, I first read Bram Stoker's brilliant and infuriating classic in college, and she was like, what she wanted to do was give Lucy a girlfriend. And it's so cool because, like I said, Lucy is also sapphic in this, so she has some fun dalliances throughout the years, but also when you read her kind of her diaries and that, when she is still human, you can tell she's totally obsessed with Mina and she's in love with Mina. And I love this. I absolutely love it. And I'll be honest, I was really apprehensive because I wasn't too sure about the last couple of books I'd read of Kirsten White, and I was a little bit like, oh no, am I gonna love this? But I just absolutely love it. I love the story of the past, so I love reading about Lucy's past and about like I said, all the kind of different things she did. I think the therapist sessions are really interesting. Therapist sessions kind of make me feel like Interview with the Vampire because she's talking to Vanessa. And again, okay, are there any Penny Dreadful fans out there? Because I am obsessed with Penny Dreadful, and Vanessa Ives is my queen and Dorian Gray is my king. Yes. Sorry, I went somewhere in my head that you don't want to know. But to me, when she's talking to her therapist, Lucy, it's making me think... I mean, when Lucy's talking to her therapist, Vanessa, it's making me think of Vanessa Ives. But anyway, so she kind of is talking to the therapist and telling her life as well. So that's giving me that interview with the vampire. And then, of course, you've got the classic notes of the Dracula story. You've got Lucy trying to find Dracula and kill him at one point, which is great. And then you've kind of got this interconnected story with Iris, who is our 2024 story, and like I said, this kind of heiress. And you learn that she has a really terrible family and she's trying to kind of get away from it, and all she wants to do is actually get rid of this legacy. She doesn't want any part of it. And you kind of become aware that she's aware of vampires as well. But I am at a stage of the book, and I won't say because it could be a massive spoiler for the plot twist, but there is a plot twist that I love. And I kind of saw shades of it coming, but I was just like, oh, this is brilliant. So loved it. Loved, like I said, loved that kind of atmosphere of London. And of course, when they go down to Whitby, there's like this silent rave in the like the ruins of the Whitby Castle and the cathedral. It's so good. I think it is so atmospheric. It's perfect for this time of year. I think if you want, like, talking about sort of spooky season fall reads, it's just giving me all the vibes, all the feels. Yeah, I just think anything kind of set in London as well during this time of year, because it's just really cold and all that, it's perfect. And this kind of Dracula story, but also I wouldn't say it's particularly gruesome or scary at all, but it's so good. It's so interesting. It's like a family drama. It hits some, you know, touchy subjects of kind of abuse, about you know, abuse of power, and power dynamics and power imbalances as well. There's some great juicy steamy times in here. It just is fabulous. I am in love with it, and I haven't actually checked. I'm that far. Literally, I'm on page 300, and I think this is like 440 pages. So I've only got 140 pages left to go. I'm loving it. Also, side note, I am loving Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. Actually, I was in bed this morning just kind of going, because I'd started reading it and I was like, I have to finish this. I have to finish that book. So I'm very tempted to go on to the second book, although it wasn't on my list for this weekend. I'll try to refrain, but that is, I did a whole video on that. I love it. Also, I've now, because I'm part Italian, I've had to buy loads and loads of wonderful Italian food because of descriptions of Italian food in there. There's also quite a few descriptions of tea and coffee and cafes and food, and butter chicken. Butter chicken features heavily in this book. I won't tell you why. You'll get there, but butter chicken. Just remember, butter chicken. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna go back to my coffee. I'm gonna have some of that cake. That's sort of basically calling my name. And go back to this, and I'll talk to you all again later. Bye. The autumn wreaths are going up around the bed. I am loving the home sense decor. Spooky season vibes. Just got into a bit in this book that I actually found really interesting, so I just kind of wanted to share this. So I think I said in the beginning that Iris, who is our modern day storyline, her mother has just died and she's an heiress, and she like wants none of what this kind of family's empire is, and she talks a lot about it being predatory and, like I said, a lot around control and just evil, like roping people into what sounds a lot like a pyramid scheme. And it's really interesting because we've just gone to a piece in the book where you kind of really find out what it is that they're doing. I know, spoiler, but we are talking about vampires. It's linked to vampires. So it's this interesting thing of like a modern take on vampirism, and this idea of, if you were Dracula in 2024, kind of what would you do with that? And it feels like this kind of almost cult, sort of pyramid scheme cult, where you're sucking people in, excuse the pun, and, you know, making money out of being a vampire. It just makes total logical sense. So I just think that is really, really interesting, that's kind of the take. And yeah, I just think it adds another layer to this story, and the way that Kirsten White has taken this sort of Dracula story and conceived it into something that is so appropriate for like now. I love that. So good. And then the other thing I wanted to share with you, so I think I showed you my copy of Slewfoot by Brahm, and I wanted to show you this. So like I said, we all know book buying and book reading, two very different things, but I got my hands on Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is TJ Klune's second book in the Cerulean Sea universe, and this has just come out, and this is so gorgeous because it is, you can see it's the signed, oh god, is that focusing, it's the signed independent bookshop version of this, and I got it from Resident Records here in Brighton, who sell gorgeous books as well as records, and it's just so beautiful. So see the pages there with the wet signature, and then oh, look at that sprayed edge. Isn't that absolutely stunning? So I could not resist getting this edition of this book because it's just too beautiful. So that's just an aside because I love a good book. But anyway, I'm going to go back to reading this. It's so good. I'll let you know my final thoughts soon-ish, hopefully. We'll see how quickly I get through it. Bye. I finished Lucy Undying. Okay, I poured myself some port because I figured that was very fitting. It's the closest thing to a little sip of blood, I was thinking. So I've just been sitting here finishing the book and I loved it. You know what? I don't know what it is about these reading vlogs, but either I'm getting better at picking books I like, although the amount of books I have to read, I don't think every single one's going to be amazing, but I just, so far, crossing my fingers, all of these books have been amazing that I've been reading in these vlogs, and this is no different. And I will be honest, I was a little bit apprehensive. Going to drink the blood. Sorry, that was a terrible accent. Okay. I was a little bit apprehensive because I wasn't sure that I was going to love it. I mean, I loved the premise, but I didn't know if I was going to love the execution, and oh my goodness, I absolutely loved it. I think one of the blurbs on the back here says career-defining book. I don't remember who sort of wrote, which one of the people that blurbed this book wrote that, but I just kind of agree. I thought it was fantastic. Just this kind of focus on the women in the Dracula story, first of all, was incredible. Giving Lucy Westenra this voice and this incredible journey, kind of taking vampirism into the 21st century as well. This whole idea of, great, you're a vampire, but like, it's 2025. Like, what are we doing with that now? And I loved that sort of take on it. The love story in this is beautiful. The friendships as well, the kind of found family aspect of particularly this kind of group of female vampires, I really loved. I loved the storytelling part of it. So, like I said, the kind of different transcripts and letters and therapy sessions, all of that. I loved all the different parts of that. I loved kind of the twists and turns. I love the cover. I just thought it was fantastic. I really loved it. And I do love, like Kirsten Watts, I said I was reading her author's note where she said Lucy deserved a girlfriend. And she says, I love Dracula and that makes me angry, particularly in his treatment of Lucy. And then at the very end, she's like, and finally to Bram Stoker, sorry, but also thanks, but also sorry, but mostly thanks. And I love that because I think for me, Dracula as well is such a kind of defining book for me, and sort of that whole journey into loving vampires and loving all of that mythology, and just it's glorious. I loved it. I really did. It's, to me, this is another 5-star read. So here's saying a cheers to Miss Lucy, and I'm going to go figure out what I'm going to read next. So I'll see you in a while. Okay, I have procured my stack of books. So I'm really in a vampire mood. So I really want to read this Ravenous Fate, but I kind of feel like between the sort of the Lucy vampires and these vampires, I need a bit of a palate cleanser, because I feel like if I go straight into this tonight, I don't know, it's gonna be like I need to clear it from my head. So I'm thinking of possibly doing one of the like horror thrillers in between. So at the moment I really want to read Listen for the Lie, because it just sounds like my kind of thing, and I think it'll be a fairly quick read as well. But then also, and this will be a quicker read, oh my goodness, how beautiful is that cover? Sorry, I am in love with this cover. I just think it's so beautiful. Oh, look at it. I mean, look at that. It looks like the book is bloodstained. It's so beautiful. Anyway, sorry. Total sidetrack. So we all know book appreciation, again, is a whole separate hobby. So this is the new Delilah S. Dawson, and that, I think it's in the beginning, this is kind of like a take on the French Revolution, so sort of horror, murder, thriller type of thing. So I don't know. I think that one's also got the blood at the back. So yeah, so I think I'm going to do one of these two, and then this Ravenous Fate, and then we'll see. But also, I've still got Crimson Moth and A Dark and Drowning Tide. How much can one person read over the course of 48 hours? Okay, stay tuned. I'll let you know what I pick, but I'm going to go do some soul searching and possibly put on some music and drink some more, because that'll help. I'll speak to you all soon. Good morning. Welcome to another day of my reading vlog. I know I was kind of going back and forth last night about what I wanted to read. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go straight into another vampire book. So I ended up picking up Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson to kind of palate cleanse a little bit from the vampires. Although I will say I was quite naughty. I got very, very excited about reading this Ravenous Fate, and I did start on that this morning. So I read a little bit of that this morning. Read some more of this. I read some of this last night. Went to the gym, about to get ready to go out. Also, I might see if I can take a little bit of footage. I'm headed out to Waterstones as soon as the shop's open. And I ordered a couple of books that I'm there to pick up. And one of them is one of the Rachel Harrison books that I don't have. I think it's at Shop Teeth. I'm so excited. But if I can get some surreptitious footage of my local Waterstones, I'll take you along. But, right, let's talk about Guillotine first. So, I really like this. It is a fun ride. So I am on page 85, which is almost halfway through. This book it's a novella, so it's like I think a couple of pages over 200, so it's 200 pages long. And what I will say about this, so the setup is that you've got Desiree, who is studying to be a fashion designer. She wants to be a fashion designer, and she kind of takes a lot of like vintage clothes and she reworks them and she makes her own designs out of that. And she's been essentially poor all her life. Her mother works as a cleaner in like a really fancy luxury hotel in New York, and they are, they've always kind of scraped by, and her mother's all her life has kind of told her these stories about, cleaning up after these very wealthy, the rich and the famous, right? What that's like in those circumstances. And she essentially wants to, I guess, in a way, carve out a better life for herself as well. But she's determined that she's kind of talented. She wants to be in the fashion industry. But in her position in the fashion industry, if you don't, it's all about who you know. And because she doesn't have those connections, she's applied for loads of jobs and those positions, and she's just not getting anything. So her plan, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with her plan, but her plan is she met this guy at a bar that gave her his number, and it turns out he's actually the son of the editor of this incredibly influential fashion magazine, I believe. And it's like this empire, this family is like spectacularly wealthy. This woman is incredibly influential. She's kind of an Anna Wintour type. So she thinks this guy's repulsive, right? She does not want to go anywhere near him, but she thinks, you know what? I'll just date him for a bit, and I'll get myself invited round to his house, and I can meet his mother. And then when I meet his mother, she's going to be so impressed by my clothes that I'm making and by my talent, she's going to help me launch my career. There are a lot. I mean, just saying that, the flaws in that plan. Anyway, she does that. And the main part of the story is she gets herself invited to his kind of family getaway home over Easter. And the descriptions, it's like this on this secluded island. Nobody knows where it is. It's spectacular. The descriptions are beautiful of it. But there's also, they seem to be obsessed with pink. Everything is pink. So the staff's uniforms are pink. The stables are pink. Pink and roses. Everything's rose-scented. So it's everything pink. But the descriptions of it are very cool. But when she gets there, she has to sign this incredible NDA. And you just, at that point, my overwhelming thing in the beginning of this book was like, I want to take this main character, I want to take Des, and I want to shake her and go, what are you doing? This is clearly a bad idea from the get-go. This man is repulsive. His family is batshit weird. You know, you're putting yourself in this situation because you think it's going to further your career. It's not going to happen. And it just, it comes across as very naive, right? And then this is not spoiler because it tells you that this kind of what happens is that because this is sort of a kind of French Revolution, Marie Antoinette retelling, his mother's name is Marie, and they treat their servants really badly. The servants revolt and it apparently turns into quite a bloodbath. And that's exactly where I've kind of stopped so far. So we've had this first kind of setup and they're having dinner and I think shit's about to get real, right? So I'm really looking forward to the second part of the book. I like it, but I will say, Desi, I just want to... So, girl, is this worth it? But, you know, do what you got to do, right? So that's Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. I'm enjoying it. It's a fun time. Then, I disappeared off your screen. This Ravenous Fate. So, like I said, I could not resist reading some of this. And I actually have read part 1. Or act 1. So you see this book is divided into acts. So it's about, I think I'm like a quarter into the book. And we're about to hit act 2. The Descent. Oh my gosh. Love it! I knew I was going to love it. This was so anticipated by me. Every time I saw it and I heard someone talking about the synopsis, we're in 1920s New York. It's, you know, this is written by a person of color and the characters, there's loads of POC characters in here. You know, it focuses on these POC women in the 20s. You kind of got Harlem, you've got the jazz clubs, you've got Prohibition. So you've got that whole kind of atmosphere of New York in the 20s. And then it's so fast paced. So, like I said, I'm past Act 1, which is a quarter way. It's like a 400-page book and it's about 100 pages in. And, oh my gosh, the stuff that kind of happens in that first act, it's so quick, it's so fast-paced. There's loads going on. The atmosphere is divine. The setup is divine. I'm already loving loads of characters. I'll talk about this more when I'm a bit further, so I don't confuse it too much with Guillotine. But suffice it to say, you know, if the rest of the acts are as good as Act 1 in this, oh, I'm loving it. So, you know, we've got the vampires in this. You've got like, so what I would say about like Lucy Undying, there's not a lot of, it's more story on her character, her life story, the relationships and things like that. Whereas I'd say this one has a lot more action in it. You've got gangsters, you've got bootlegging, all of that stuff. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I cannot wait to continue with this. So like I said, going to Waterstones, gonna finish, I think, Guillotine, then continue with this, and I will give you some more updates as I go along. Okay, so this Ravenous Fate is going to be my final check-in for tonight. I'm going to carry on reading, but Act 2, and I still love the story. So what we're getting kind of in Act 2 is a bit of a kind of a murder mystery investigation, which is really cool. So you've got Layla and Elise, so Elise is the human in the story. She's the heiress to the Saint Empire. So Elise Saint is her family, who have this special silver and who kind of are the protectors against the Reapers. So it's Reaper that they call vampires in this novel. And she's going to be, her father's like asked her to take over sort of the Saint Empire. And she's kind of teaming up with Layla And the two of them have some history, and Layla's a Reaper vampire, and they're trying to figure out these murders. So originally Layla was accused of the murders, but it wasn't her, so they're kind of teaming up. So this has kind of turned into like a really cool murder mystery type of story, and the two of them are really funny together. They kind of snipe at each other a lot. I'm also picking up potentially enemies to lovers on this, so there's a few indications of that. So I think, because it says sometimes true love defies death itself, I'm wondering if that's the story. So I'm really loving it. There's also such a great conversation around race and class and, you know, like I said, 1920s Harlem, and around the fact that there's some really great quotes from Layla saying, you know, she is kind of owning her space. She's not going to bow down to white people. She is, you know, she's proud to be who she is. And I love that. And I think it's so great having like vampire stories, but from a different voice and from a different point of view. And I think I read, is it Justina Ireland, Dread Nation? Her books, Dread Nation. They were so good. Loved them. Read them years ago. Still think about them. Really love them. I think if you love Dread Nation was zombies, but you might like this as well. I think it follows some of those same thoughts, which is really cool. But yeah, I love it. So I love this kind of turn into sort of a investigation murder mystery kind of thing. So I'm going to continue reading. I'm wondering if, like I said, the love story plot line is going to go the way I think, but really, really enjoying it. Such a fantastic book. I'll speak to you all when I'm finished. Night. So I ended up not filming in Waterstones because it was like really busy in there, and I felt a bit self-conscious. I'm not very good at filming when I'm out and about. Might try and do that a bit later, but I wanted to show you what I got. So it was Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. I'm so excited. I think there's only one more book left, and then I'll have all of the Rachel Harrison. I also got this One Dark Window, which is by Rachel Gillig. I've heard such great things about this. So this is kind of gothic fantasy, which, like, dark gothic fantasy is my favorite thing in the world. And then speaking of that, I got the second book, Kingdom of the Cursed, from the Kingdom of the Wicked, because I am obsessed with that first book. I finished reading it, and I'm going to do an entire video on this series because I'm totally obsessed with it. Also, I got, because, you know, it is the season. Oh my gosh. So if you haven't tried this is pumpkin spice drinking chocolate from Hotel Chocolat. Oh my gosh. It is unbelievable. And then I'll also show you my wreath. So I hope you can see that there. That is my wonderful Halloween wreath that I got. It's so good. I've been doing all of the Halloween decorating. I love it. It's my favorite thing. But now I'm going to go to finish reading Guillotine because I've only got like 100 pages left to read. And then I'll come back and tell you what I thought. Okay. I think the term wake up and smell the roses sort of applies. So, Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. I just finished this. Okay. There are so many thoughts, and it's a novella, it's such a short book, so I can't say too much without giving the entire story away, but honestly, I really enjoyed this. So I think where I last left it was where I said to you, like, shit was gonna get real in terms of, you know, the peasants were revolting, so the servants were fighting back, and it just popped off. It literally, it went mad, and I loved every second of it. And as much as Des annoyed me in sort of the first half, she redeemed herself in the second half. So that's good. And also, kind of when you find out just how horrible and wicked this family is. And it's so funny because you know, these servants are basically killing off this family, and it turns into a bit of a locked house thriller because they're stuck on this island and they can't get off. And oh my gosh, the creative ways, just so good. And it's so funny because I'm catching myself going, yes. So I was very excited at the people, at the ways they were being killed, and I was kind of going, good for you, good for you. So it's one of those good for her sort of revenge. I loved it. So good. It's kind of like, so it's even, Mayfly is one of my favorites of the year. I loved reading Mayfly. So I kind of, I guess, in this vein a little bit of someone kind of relishing in the murder. But what I loved about this is the revenge killing was very much deserved. So I just loved it. So I think I'm going to do a bit of an Instagram photo shoot with this book because it's gorgeous. So now, next, we have this Ravenous Fate. So I think I mentioned earlier that I want to say 5 stars. The only reason I would say 4.5 is because the main character irritated me in the beginning, but she's supposed to. That's kind of how she is. So again, I just think it's a 5-star thriller read. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and for a book that's that short, I just think it did a great job. So this one, so I think I said to you, I have started it, and I'm going to start with part 2 of the book. And like I was saying, this has really, it kind of kicks off really, really quick. So you've got this family who are kind of like a steel tycoon family, and they make this special steel that they use for bullets to shoot vampires and kill them. And this is like the only way, like they're silver bullets, and that they can kind of kill the vampires in this world. So they are kind of, again, it's this very rich, opulent settings, very rich, opulent family, a bit like in Guillotine. But then you also have, like I said, it's 1920, so you also kind of have the gangs and the bootleggers and like the showgirls in the clubs and the jazz clubs. And then you also have these kind of enclaves of the vampires as well. And they're not called vampires in this world. I need to remember what they're called. But so they also have like tenuous agreements and stuff. There's a lot more, there's definitely a lot more blood and murder in this one than in Lucy Undying. Obviously the same as Guillotine, so it's a bit of a blood-soaked day for me. But I have really, really enjoyed what I've started reading with this, and it's just a fun ride. I'm already loving some of the characters in here. I love the main vampire character, Lila. Of course, I love the vampire character. It's just so far been a really fun ride, and like I said, really fast-paced, and I think that it's going to be fun if that continues. The only thing I would say, and actually it was the same as in Immortal Dark, is some of the scenes, like when it switched from one scene to the next, it felt a tiny bit jarring. Just like it's almost like it took my brain a second to go, oh, that's what we're talking about now. So that's the only thing I would say. And the tail end of Immortal Dark did that a few times as well. And it's not like, it doesn't bother me enough to really be a problem. It was just something that I've noticed that this one does a little bit as well, is it jumps scenes very quickly sometimes, where it takes you a minute to go, oh right, okay, we're talking about this now, and then it's fine, it just continues. But that's the only thing so far that I found. But I really love the fast-paced nature of this. And even though it is fast-paced, I think we're getting quite a bit of the world building. Like I said, she's really setting, I mean, Haley Dennings is doing a wonderful job of this kind of atmosphere of this 1920s New York. And you feel like you're in these jazz clubs and she's describing the clothes the women are wearing. And oh, it's just delicious. Clothing descriptions as well in that Guillotine one, so if you like designer clothes. But yeah, so far I'm really, really loving it. So I'm going to get on with reading this one, and then I'll give you some more thoughts later. Thanks. So I have just finished This Ravenous Fate by Hayley Dennings, and this is another 5-star read for me. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I think where we left off, I was saying that there was like a load of action in Act 1. So this is in 4 acts, which I really love. I love that aspect of it. And that continues. I love all the action in this. The kind of murder mystery that started to develop in Act 2. And you sort of get the resolution of what's happening. You start to find out, you know, what is happening. And there's this question that runs through it in terms of, you know, who are the monsters? Is it the Reapers, the vampires in this world, or is it the humans? If you ask me, it's the humans. So, you know, you get people's motivations, why they're doing what they're doing. There's this aspect of found family for the vampire clan, and, you know, like betrayal and honor and friendship. There is this gorgeous sapphic love story that runs through this. This is true. If friends to enemies to friends to lovers. These girls are best friends, but there's a lot of hate because there's a lot of history that happened, and they kind of work through that in the story. It's so good. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Things wrapped up in this book, but I'm like, where it ended, I was like, right, I need a book 2. It, like I said, it was satisfying in the sense that a lot of it got wrapped up, but then at the very end, there was some twists and turns, and then something happens at the very end, and you're like, what? Oh, I need another book. I need to know. I need to, come on, Hayley, just write another book. I need to know what happens. I need to know how the story continues. I need to know what happens to Layla and Elise, and I love the characters. Again, strong Black female characters in this. Wonderful. So nice to see the diversity in sort of horror vampire fiction as well. It's just so great. The atmosphere, this kind of 1920s, loved it. So it was just another fantastic read. I am so glad I picked this book up and I read it. And I think if any of that sounds good, if you like vampires, if you like action, yeah, I think if you like the Immortal Dark, you'll like this. But yeah, just I highly recommend it. I loved it. And like I said, there was some really interesting discussions about race, about gender, about politics, about class, about family, about who you can trust, who you can't trust, friendship. There's a lot. This story has a lot of fun kind of action elements, but also a lot of heart and a lot of substance underneath it, which I really love. So it was fantastic. So there endeth my vlogeth for this weekend. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any books that you recommend, or if you've been reading these, or what you think. And I will speak to you all again very soon. Bye.